going on, everybody? Core Conversations for Wednesday. Thanks for joining me. Thanks for the patience as I had to talk to some of our guests today and make sure everything's good for us to get going. So we started late, but we're going to have a good time. Dad goals as always, and it's Wednesday, which means that I have a super special co-host for my Wednesday. So I'm going to bring Misty on right now while I'm rambling, and yeah, we're going to have a good time. I don't know if she's even ready to do that, but we'll just type away while she's joining us. Okay, is our podcast drop? So like, subscribe, and share. The Core Conversations podcast. Bam. All right. So that, and then that. Good morning.
Hi, how are you?
I'm good. So you're not in the witness protection program this week.
I thought it was time to just reemerge.
Yes.
No, I had an injury last week and I couldn't sit in my regular chair. So I moved to the bedroom and I was in disguise. But, here we are.
Here
Back
we
in
are. Nice.
How are you doing, friend?
I'm doing well.
Good.
I was just having a quick chat with Risa, who's going to be joining us in a few minutes.
Excellent.
So we're just sorting some things out. So that's usually I'm trying to be here right at 10. I hate being late. Hate perpetuating stereotypes of Black people being late as well. So that's my thing.
I feel like 1 minute in is not late. It's allowing for all of the time zones to coalesce.
You're so slick.
I try my best.
Yeah. So smooth, silky smooth.
I am with the Sultan of Smooth. I have to keep my game elevated. Just
right.
saying.
There you go. Just have some people coming in here. I see Carol, Claudia, Julie, Studio One Pilates, and Jen Duggar. Thank you for joining us, everybody.
Hi, everyone.
I always just check here just to see some people pop in and leave. So Jen, where are you located? Just wondering if you're a Pilates person or is she one of your people? Because we get the beauty of both, audiences, right?
No, but she's going to be now. Check it out. Reaching new ones. I love it. Every bit of it.
Mm-hmm. So Tasha's going to come in the second kind of half of the hour. Risa's going to jump in probably about 10 minutes or so. Julie, Studio One. And for those of you who are in the chat, where are you located? I'd love to just write down in the chat, what city you're in and who's watching so far.
Yeah, the coolest thing about this platform is that, we get to meet people from all over the world and then we have places to visit.
Mm-hmm.
Hi, Carol. Good morning. Oh, it's really morning where you are.
I know, right?
Whew.
There's a question here or answer. So Ottawa's in the house. Sweet.
Nice.
Jen Duggar said, I'm in Philly, but originally a Pittsburgh girl like Misty Lynne.
Excellent. Have you seen our falling bridges? We've got falling bridges. We have sinkholes. I mean, just let me write the travel log for Pittsburgh. I'm telling you, I will make it probably apocalyptic. Maybe don't let me write it.
Right. There's your tax dollars at work or not.
Lots of dollars, not a whole lot of work.
Yeah. Too funny. You are the podcast for this week, you and Leticia.
What?
Yes. The conversation that we did last week with
Oh, okay.
with public Pilates.
I forgot your podcast is to me, it's all the same umbrella, but I forgot it's a separate
Right.
thing.
Right.
I'm confused. I was thinking, didn't we do that already? No,
Yeah,
that's
no way.
exciting.
Yeah, actually, maybe I should just explain that just for people who are watching how that even
Please
works.
do.
So, yeah, and someone was asking about this the other day. So, what we do here is we have a conversation, and then after the conversation is done, I have my stand is like rocking back and forth here. Um, so we have a conversation, and then it gets uploaded to YouTube. So then I have like the personal victory is a YouTube channel, and then all of like every single conversation I've ever had is on YouTube. And then what I'll do is I will harvest one of the conversations from there, and then I use an app that converts it to an audio file. And then I record an intro and say, "Welcome to Core Conversation. Today's episode topic is, trust yourself," like last week. And Letitia was our guest. We had a co-host, blah, 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 blah. So I do a quick intro, outro, and then I save it to Podbean, and then I schedule it to release Wednesdays at 4. So that's why I always put like, subscribe, and share. So if you've done that already, in your inbox, you'll get a new podcast every Wednesday afternoon, which
No.
is just a recycled version of these conversations.
Now tell our friends, is this podcast widely available? Are they able to find it on, I don't want to say Spotify, but are they able to find it on Apple and in Google and all of
Yes.
those places?
Absolutely. Yeah. Wherever, whatever your podcast, provider of choice is, that's on all of them. So it just kind of distributes them to iHeartRadio, to Stitcher, to whatever, like all the ones that are out there. So you can just go right to Apple, or you can go to whichever one that you choose to use, and you'll find it there.
And education. That's great.
There you go.
I didn't know exactly how you did it. I knew that you did it, but I didn't know how. So that's
Mhm.
actually a really smart way to go about it.
It's simple, right? And I was asking the other day just about like whether people want a long form podcast, like something you could just leave playing in the background for an hour while you're doing something, or like a short kind of quick hitting soundbite type thing, which takes more time to edit. But then, and it seems like people like the long form version of it where it's just this conversation. Like I like them too. I just kind of tune in and out, and I just pick up little nuggets of, that people say, and it's like move on with my day, right?
That's it. I really enjoy anywhere from like 45 minutes to an hour and a half, just being able to just put it on and go, whether I'm going for a walk or I'm driving in the car. And everybody who knows me knows I hate driving in the car. So I hate driving in the car because there are rules to driving on streets that other people use.
Yes.
So, it helps me to have something else to remind me that I'm aggravated, or take away the idea that I'm aggravated and just allow me to enjoy the ride.
Yes.
And so podcasts are really important to me in just getting through my day in a lot of cases too.
Mm-hmm. Totally. Hi, Tammy. Tammy saying hello there.
Oh, hello, Tammy.
Which reminds me that if any of you in the chat have any like online classes, workshops, things along those lines, please put it in the comment section so we can cheer you on. We can find it, repost it, all those things. And Misty, if you want to talk for a quick second about yours, it's coming up tomorrow or next week?
Next week, actually.
Next week,
We
yes.
rescheduled it just to give more people time. But yes, we're talking about toxic positivity next week on the 15th,
Okay.
7:30 p.m. Eastern. And especially right now, I feel like this topic is more important than ever because so many people are starting to feel frayed and exhausted, and they've got, whether it's running their business in a time of duress fatigue, COVID fatigue, tired of having to sort their wardrobe fatigue. A lot of people just aren't okay.
Yes.
And there are times when, yes, the answer is get over it, but there are other times when the answer is compassion and empathy. And I think that we all have to remember that. We have to remember that everyone's living a unique experience, and to them, it's different than it is to you on the outside. So how do we answer that? And how do we answer that as movement teachers in spaces where, you know, we used to say, oh, we don't have conversations about anything other than movement and Pilates in our space, but that's not real life, especially in these times. So how do we show up with compassion and care without minimizing people's experience just because we want to get back to what we had planned for the day? Toxic positivity is a big deal, and it really minimizes people and who they are and how they feel. So that's what the whole workshop's about.
Yeah. You say minimizes, like I would say like oversimplifies, but the minimizes is stronger. Like either way, it's like you're not giving dignity or giving value to the person's present lived experience. You're like, oh, just laugh it off, like football, just walk it off, sort of thing, and not respecting that process, right?
Right. Yeah, that's exactly it. You know, I was having this conversation with someone. They said, well, minimizing, isn't that a big word? And I said, yeah, it is a big word for a big act. To be frank, when somebody is going through something major and we say something like, everything's going to be okay, one way to look at it is, you know what, listen, I'm trying to refocus or redirect their thought process. But another way of looking at it from the perspective of the listener or the recipient is they're essentially saying that I'm dwelling on something that isn't important. It's not important enough for me to be in that space about it. And one, who is anyone on the outside to say that to somebody?
Right.
And two, and more importantly, how do we say that we're helpers and healers if we're disregarding? Because a lot of cases, people say these things because they don't want to deal with it. So if we're disregarding somebody else's lived experience, then how is it that we're going to be able to reach them, help them achieve their goals, any of it, whatever they're there for that day?
Right. Yeah, true. I caught myself in that many times too, like going through, like in my own personal life, my divorce, where I would talk with a guy who just found out that his marriage is crumbling and that his wife is leaving him or whatever the case is, and he's in a funk, and I'd be like, you'll be fine. Right. Because I know that I got through it, so can you.
Yeah.
Right. So in a sense, that's not respecting his feelings in the moment, but it's also saying like, don't put all of your energy into the woe is me part, because there actually is light at the end of this tunnel, right? So it's a way to say that where you're respecting people's, like their perspective, because they're so close to them, they can't see or feel anything else, right? So
right. If we give them a chance to share, sometimes that's all people need. Yep. And you don't have to get into the hairy business of it. It doesn't have to become, doomsday. But, if you allow somebody to speak from their position, from where they are, just say how they're feeling. In a lot of cases, a few sentences in, they're feeling a lot better already, just from being heard.
Yes.
We have to let people be heard. And I think societally, this is becoming an even bigger problem because so many people are just speaking without listening. The intention is not to listen and hear and understand. The intention is to answer and contest. And that's problematic too.
Right. Wait for a gap. Wait for a moment of silence to just throw your point in without listening to what was just said.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Positioning.
So, and do you think that like a lot of this, like, there used to be a time where it's like game face on, people don't care about your problems, just give them a good workout and they'll feel better. Do you think it's just like this global collective trauma which has given us space as health professionals or fitness professionals to actually address some of the trauma that people bring into the room with them?
I think it was happening before the trauma, but then again, I think we've been in this place of trauma for a long, long time and no one's admitted it. All the current situation has done is rip the Band-Aid off and then light the match. Right. But yeah, I think that that's a big part of it is before, pre-current drama, everyone was compartmentalizing their lives. And
Yes. Yeah.
now, because of social media and so many other things, nobody can maintain that level of bandwidth anymore. So now it's
Right.
just, this is my life. Shaking
Yes.
boobs, whatever it is, like out in public, and everybody can see it now. It's all out there.
Yes.
Which I don't necessarily think has to be a bad way if it's managed properly.
Mm-hmm.
You don't want to be vomiting your whole life out there when you're around people that couldn't care less and could use it against you. But
Right.
then again, that's also something to look at and see that maybe it's time for some new people in your life.
Yeah.
The transition is coming from so many angles at this
Right.
point.
Right. I would say like I don't want to bleed all over people. So like I'll just like keep this to myself and do my thing. And even in like, not teacher training, but like personal training workshops and trainings, they'd always say like avoid autobiographical responses. Don't share your stuff. It's not about you. Just get through what like there's no space for all that warm fuzzy stuff. Like, and that really was the rhetoric. Maybe just make sure they're okay. You're okay? Okay, let's move. Like, but what does okay look like? And I think that's the bigger question.
Right. And what if okay is the way the session starts, but halfway through you're not okay anymore?
Yep.
Do you fake it and your head explodes? Do you go running out of the room like you're, just having a breakdown? Mm-hmm. If we create this elasticity, I think, to the way we view things as we come into this space. For example, you're working with somebody and they super hard charging. You see where they are every week. They're just go, go, go. And they start off that way, but halfway through you see them coming apart.
Yes.
Do you keep beating on them or, whatever it is? Or do you slow down and you say, are you okay?
Yeah.
Are you okay is a huge bridge builder. And it's just that demonstration of I'm here for you no matter what. And sometimes even just that's enough to give the person the ability to take a big breath and say, you know what, I can be here. I can do this. And sometimes it takes more. But I believe that, the lesson is for the students. It's not for me.
Right. That are you okay question has so much to do with our body language and the way that we ask the are you okay? Misty, you're okay? All right, good, let's go. Or it's like, okay, let me just stop what I'm doing. Are you okay? So a lot of times our clients are coming from a place of they want to please us, they want to impress us, they want to perform for us. So they want to just shake it off and go. But when they see that we're ready to stop, we're ready to abandon our plan to make sure that they're good.
Yep.
That body language is so powerful, and that maybe the rest of your session is just talking that through so that you're good for Wednesday.
And it goes a long way toward loyalty, toward trust. If you're talking about, being a business person, the most important part of being a business person, I think, is being dynamic and being able to manage the ebbs and flows, not just in terms of cash flow, but in terms of engaging the people that are around you and that are important. And your students hopefully are important. So if you are able to engage them in a way that allows them to be seen and recognized, then, that is a client that you will have forever.
Absolutely. Risa's here. I see her in the chat. Risa, you give us the thumbs up if you're good to go. And these questions these things that we're talking about are kind of like high level conversations that we're having and we're learning on the fly. So with Risa coming in, she has a teacher training program coming up. And for her and for those of you that are teaching any kind of teacher training program out there, the question is, how much of this do we give to the new teacher coming out of the blocks? They're thinking, I need to memorize this exercise. I need to learn the system. I need to get this. And I need to be able to hold space for people. So
what? How can I do it?
How can I do it? Yes, exactly. And you got to nail this on your first date too. You got to be perfect, right?
Yeah.
That's absolutely.
Or else everyone's going to hate you and then they're running away. 100%.
Right. And you'll be broke and you'll need to get a desk job.
That's it. It's over.
Right.
Barista.
So now that we've scared everybody, we're going to bring Risa on and see how this goes. Hey, Michelle. Hi, Lisa. Jason Williams is in the house too.
Hi, guys.
And yeah, so Risa, I hope that her Instagram is the newest version, so it could take a third person on the screen because it might say it can't. Um, and if it can't, I always have.
Oh,
Oh,
she's
there she
here.
is.
Hello.
Hi.
I think I'll go on back and wait for you to call me back.
No, we're good.
Don't do it.
My new tech savvy baby boomer Pilates guru is in the house.
And early.
And good to go. And gone.
And she's left the building.
There you go.
God love technology.
I have this to sing and dance with until we figure that out. So
what is the
what this
adventures
is.
of I'm hitting a glare. Read it to me.
That's the Adventures of Frankie Fitness. This is Frankie Does Pilates by our friend Jason Williams, who is in the chat right now.
Nice.
So as always, forever shouting this out. And our meditative coloring book, which has a dad doing Pilates in it, which I always love. And I'm still working on getting this into schools. I want to be able to just go and read this to a bunch of kids and get them to do some Pilates. I think it'd be the funnest thing ever.
I think that would be total fun. Teaching Pilates to little ones is a riot.
Yeah.
They're like, oh, I'm going to die.
You're going to die. It's like a sniper on the roof taking them out one by one.
Yep, they're rolling around, howling, holding their bellies.
Rising. Yep. So funny.
But again, it's that element of body awareness that we didn't have as kids. We just went out and we did our sports and we danced and we did whatever. Yeah. And I feel like, I dance on this, right? Because I feel like we don't want them so cerebrally engaged with their bodies that they don't necessarily maintain that element of play. Mm-hmm. But at the same time, sometimes kids like to geek out on stuff. And, to talk to them about their deepest, darkest layer of abdominals, that's exciting for some kids. I can imagine that I, as a kid, would have been like, ooh, tell me more.
Yeah.
Is that where the aliens will emerge from one day? Something like that. Yeah. I just think that it's so great at destigmatizing bodies. It opens up discussions with kids who may not have the ability to have the discussions with their family at home for whatever reason.
Right.
Bringing that awareness earlier and earlier allows them, as they get older, to be more body intelligent and hopefully read and understand their bodies a lot better when they go off into adulthood or teenhood. Teenhood's when things get really messy.
Yeah, and that body intelligence piece is key because school, like raising boys, you see how much of it is oriented to just academic learning and one level of intelligence, one type of intelligence. So when you can get into this kind of body awareness, and I think of my 15-year-old to be like, this will help you to do backflips better. He'd be like, okay, I'm in. Like it doesn't matter about abdominals and stuff. It's like, how does it make me better at my sport? Will I be able to beat my friends in a race? Yes or no? Let's run it. So
yeah. If you guys don't know Jason, Charm City PT, he's here in the chat. First of all, you've got to follow him because he's just fun and funny and lovely, and he likes to shake a tail feather on screen a little bit. He's just great. But this book is so wonderful. Like I said, get it in the hands of the little people that and keep a copy for yourself if you like to color, because this is a great
I haven't colored
product.
This yet.
Jason's a great guy. We should all be supporting him.
Absolutely. I wonder if he has this like online reading it. Like, you have like books like on YouTube where you can get them reading the book where they're just like reading through each page and have like put out for your kids to just,
Like a little, what's it called? What do they call it? Book group? Book club.
Book
club for kids.
Yeah.
I like this. This is a great idea.
Mm-hmm. Charm City PT, that's Jason asking, how old were you when you first heard of Pilates?
Oh, I heard about Pilates early because I was dancing. So, they would talk about this thing called Pilates that, all the ballet masters from New York or whatever would come in and talk about, and, you know, well, you should be doing Pilates. And then like they'd float out on their cloud of cigarette smoke. And I was like, okay,
Right.
what is that? And then when I went to college, there were rooms of Pilates equipment. And I was like, well, what do you do on that? No one knew. That was the end of that, you know?
Yeah.
So, you know, heard of it a lot, probably from age 11 on, but didn't really, I mean, literally did this much with it until I was probably 18 or 19. And then it went from this much to this much.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, it's funny. That life cycle for it is similar for me. Like I did it right after playing football. I took like one like group fitness class for Pilates and realized that it was great for my body. And then I took a class, like I took a mat certification course. And then that was just so I could just understand it for me. And then the way it was taught was like, and lift your legs up, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. And it was like this dancing, singing thing. And I'm like, I'm not going to sing and dance. So I'm never going to teach this. All right. So, and it was years before it circled back to like learning it, like realizing that there was equipment and realizing that it didn't have to be a Broadway show to teach Pilates. And then I was in. So.
Well, and that's why what you do is so great, Martin. Now, listen to me. I'm like, it's a love fest here.
I know, right?
But, you know, getting Pilates in the hands of men is super important. And there are men who don't want to get it from me. Why? Because I'm going to be straight. Men get a little salty when I'm busting out a 4-minute plank, giving an explanation to something about something related to it. They don't want to see me in that position, and then they're up there for 20 seconds and dying. But when you do it, it's, oh man, that guy, that Martin Reed.
Yes.
You know, so I think that what is great about this time that we're in right now is that there are so many sources that look and sound and have a different feel out there to get the work from. And that's the beautiful part about it. Like a lot of Pilates teachers are worried about competition. Don't worry about competition. Competition is nothing because we are so niched out just as individuals. Getting back to what we were talking about earlier, you know, being able to get the information from somebody that you feel like you vibe with, that you feel like can care about you, that is the key. So for you, it's I know you, like me, we'll teach anybody, but there are certain people that are going to gravitate to us. And I love the fact that you are putting it out there as, hey, yes, men do this work too. We are not in tutus and tiaras. We are still killing it. And P.S., they're killing it too, but we're killing it this way. So if you want to place with a low barrier to entry, join me.
Yes.
Because we speak the same language.
Absolutely. Absolutely. You can find yourself in the Pilates work these days.
Yes.
And I think that's really been one of the beauties, like, you know, Michael Johnson was saying the other day, the beauty of social media and internet and everything that's come out of this time is that we can now see who's actually out there because we're not so busy that we're locked into our own work. So now I can find someone in Australia that looks like me that's teaching Pilates that I can learn from and stuff like that. Like whatever your other is, that other is out there.
Yeah. Yeah. It's a brilliant time. I hope that we can keep it going as things start to open back up and we get back to our real lives. I hope people remember this moment because we all have a tendency, and we know this about us as humans. It's even if we're going back to something that's negative, we'll go back to that because we've spent the most time in that space, and that's what we know.
Yeah. Yep.
So I hope that we as a Pilates community as a whole, and then as individuals, can remember what it feels like to be more broadly minded, to be reaching across the globe to find somebody that suits us, to grow our horizons, and then keep that going as we move back into our new normal.
Yeah, absolutely. The whole time we've been talking and like promoting this book and singing, dancing, I've been trying to get Risa on, and it hasn't worked. So I'm gonna just reach out to her again afterwards. because yeah, I see her here in the chat, but it just keeps saying that she's unable to join.
Oh, wait.
Oh,
There she is.
Here I am.
Da,
There.
da, 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 da.
Yay, technology. Oh, I swear, technology. We haven't quite got it together yet, but I work on it. I'm much better at Pilates than I am at technology.
Hey, man, it ebbs and flows. You're trying something different and new.
Absolutely, and it does keep the mind going all the time. Somebody said recently the best thing to ward off dementia and so forth when you get older, the 3 M's. Remember, mind, movement, and then they said music. So I can understand that too. So at least the mind, the movement, and the music, which I think has to do with the rhythm of the whole world. So
yes.
reminds, and so my mind is constantly working as much as my body.
Love
That's
it.
awesome.
Way to be.
And so now you have to flex your technology muscle again because you have a live coming up with Jillian.
Yes, I'm so excited. Jillian and I are good friends. We become good friends, from colleagues to good friends. And of course, we come from the same era, if you want to say, and a lot of experience. And we were chatting at lunch the other day, and we were talking about how both of us combined have about 80 years or so, almost 100 years in Pilates, and how much it has changed and stayed the same in some ways, but the evolution of the business and so forth from the times we were involved in the 70s and 80s when nobody had ever heard of Pilates, but it was the way we taught and the way it is being marketed now, and is totally, I'm trying to say this, I don't want to put anything down because I welcome everything, but sure. Become so huge, so big, so hybrid. Whereas when we were teaching and we were first learning, there was really just one way of doing it. I mean, either she had a lot of New York experience with Ramon. In fact, I've always been jealous because she's studied with more elders than I have. I'm basically just Ron Fletcher here in Los Angeles. And when we learned, like we absorbed the work. We just absorbed, think it so much. And this is in my teacher training and so forth, I try to get people to not think so much and to feel more. That's what I believe Ron brought to the movement. I mean, when I was learning, I just simply did what Ron did. I just mimicked him. I mean, he never sat me down, us down. I mean, he would, I suppose. I can, it's to a certain degree, but his whole thing was more or less coming, of course, his background with Martha Graham, coming from the gut, coming from the insides. And like discovering your own unique personality in that way and absorbing it. And so I try to tell my students, particularly in the beginning, don't think the work too much. Concentrate, yes. I know there's a slight difference. You want to concentrate. You want to go from the inside outside, but don't try to memorize everything and then feel it. Get it in your body. When you take a young child, and let's say you're teaching him or her to swim, and you put him in the ocean, hopefully a pool, but whatever. Anyway, you just kind of show him the movements. You're not saying now your deltoid is now going to be connected to your multifid. The kid doesn't understand it. You get him to understand the movement. And then later you can say, when you lift that arm, it's really the rhomboids or whatever, you want to get when they can understand it, but get them to understand the movement. And that's how I prefer to approach the work.
I agree with you. I haven't been doing it for 80 years, but it feels like that sometimes.
Well, I haven't been 80 years. Jillian and I combined have done it for 80 years.
I know, but I mean, it's still an impressive number and one that I enjoy hearing. But I think we societally kind of dance with this knowledge, and then we run away from knowledge. And then, I agree. I feel like there's just so much splitting hairs and layering so many complicated concepts in so early to the work that it takes away the joy, first of all, that joy of movement. And then it also kind of, it keeps it stuck.
Yes, it's totally stuck. And then it's like, literally, I will have clients, well, should the hand go this way or this way? And you can tell that there's a panic. Does it go that? And I'm like, just have it move out from your center and elongate. It doesn't matter if it's this way or what am I doing? They're so afraid to make a move. And I'm like, move from, and I talk a lot about the center rather than the core. Because again, the core, people don't understand what the core is. I mean, yes, is the multifidus, the transverse, but again, talk to a layman about that. Well, so when they hear core, all they think is, oh, it's the center of their body. No, but then they don't understand that it's, really the concept. So I talk more about the center, which is the body from in between, not what muscles are contouring it. It's a little bit like chi, like the yoga chi, moving from that center and putting that body in alignment and moving from there. Does that make sense at all? Instead of saying now your transverse abdominis is going to be connected to your multifidus and have people look at you cross-eyed. Just say, no, there's here in between from the lower abdominals to the lower back, and that sort of holds the planets together, which are all the muscle groups, and that's where you express from.
Love it.
Yeah, I see the comment here from Carol. So absolutely yes, so much is overcomplicated, and then and Ali Green saying it dissects the whole person, so we move less like humans, and so I was, when you're talking about how you don't have to necessarily memorize everything and to absorb the work. I love that phrase.
I love it too. That's
right. So good.
And you absorb it through practice.
Totally.
You do the work. You immerse yourself in the work. I just taught a teacher training this past weekend, and I said to all of them who are, like you said, panic stricken. It's the first day, right? I said, you are not going to dazzle somebody that you're teaching with your understanding of the anatomy.
Exactly.
I mean, they want to know that you know it.
And Pilates instructors love to talk about the anatomy,
Because we're big dorks, and I love that about us. But that's for us to share with each other when we're working with our students. I said to one girl, I said, you can actually out anatomy yourself of a client. Talking so much about that really creates this hierarchy in the teaching space where some people just can't handle that. It's much better to approach it as a human working with a human, not a human working with an anatomy book. Who wants that? Books are heavy.
I use terms, very scientific terms like declump, when I'm talking about the rib cage, because, we're all clumped around. As soon as I, put them into alignment, I talk about declumping, they totally get it. Whereas if I talked about on all anatomical terms, they would be looking at me like, what are you talking about? But immediately when I say declump, they declump. And then sweatshirts one time said, I've been declumped, and because people get that. Yep. Declumped.
Yep.
The
first time I used the term butt cheeks in a class. And
right.
Everybody kind of stopped and looked at me. And I was like, well, you know where they are, don't you? Yes, I know where my butt cheeks are. And it was just this kind of collective sigh and a little bit of a chuckle. It's got to be relatable, right? I mean, we walk around in this.
But I have a funny story. If you just give me 10, 15 seconds. It was Ron always talked about putting a silver dollar in your cheeks. That was his whole thing. You keep a silver dollar in your cheeks. So I'm working with a Japanese client who was sweet as could be. And I'm telling her now, I want you to pretend like that you have a silver dollar in your cheeks. And a few seconds later, all of a sudden I see her going, what are you doing? She goes, well, you told me to think of a silver dollar in my cheeks. So Anyway, I'll just never forget that. That was so funny.
Right.
Great.
For a little bit. Yeah, I mean, so that's where I come from. I come from working more from the heart than the brain.
Yes. There's some sweet comments coming through here. First of all, I've been learning from Risa. This is one Brittany Burns.
Ugh.
I've been learning from Risa, and it has been the best. Full caps. I can attest to absorbing the work has kept it fun and instinctive for me, both for me and for my clients. You got a shout out to Dazzle Dorks and Kara, KSA Fitness Toronto, saying, yes, Misty, 100% make it relatable to people.
Mm-hmm.
And then Ali jumping down, Ali has another comment that says, I say chunking. Risa, you're awesome. I'm so happy I caught this episode today.
Oh, thank you.
Yes. I have this, I remember like you were saying about overcomplicating it, and I love the absorbing piece because I had this physics teacher back in the day, like maybe grade 12, and he was super smart, and he had invented like the coil on the back of the refrigerator for Admiral back in the day, so he was like really, really heady. And he said to us, memorize nothing, understand everything.
Yes. Yes, that's what I say. And one of the first things I say to my clients, I say, I don't want you to try to remember anything I'm saying because, I don't want you to think it. And I don't expect you to, this is the best thing. I say, I don't expect you to remember anything. And they go, oh.
Yeah. Collective sigh of relief.
Yeah, because we're so used to having to be in school and being taught, and this is a whole other thing. You literally see them go, I don't have to remember. So you take common human understanding and apply it to bodies or whatever you're doing. We're all just trying the best that we can, and we all want to be the best, but if we just know that what we're doing is the best, it is okay, and we're not in competition with anybody. I mean, being in the studio so many times, people will see one of my elderly, seniors or anybody will look at what somebody else is doing, maybe a ballet dancer, and they're doing all this dance. They go, oh, I want to do that. I want to do that. Can I do that? And I said, you're what you're doing, you reaching halfway to the floor for your hamstring stretch is doing as much for you as somebody who can put their entire palms down. It's the exact same thing.
Yes.
Right. Again, it's so personal.
Yes. We
get into the whole, memorizing it as it's written in the book type of deal. We take the humanity out of it. We take the individuality out of it. And going back to what we started this call with today, talking about positivity, there is no one size fits all approach.
No, there's not. And that's why I feel that even about cueing, cueing to be this big buzzword again, about a cue for this and a cue for that. And I tell my students, I said, during our work, you'll see, especially in their observation when they look at other people, what cues may work or not, but not every cue is going to be right for everybody. There's not a sheet that says, okay, say this for that. That has to come from an instinctual thing. Like, you're talking to a child, let's say, and you're saying, now just, find the cue that's going to work for them. And then you see the light goes on. So it all becomes a very instinctual thing. To memorize of cues, one cue for one person is going to be like a foreign language to another.
Right.
So it's that exchange of energy that will allow you to come up with the right words for things. And if one cue doesn't work, another one. But in terms of what is the cue for this, we become robots. And I like to bring more the spiritual, and when I don't mean godly and so forth, but more that's, body, mind, and spirit. But I find that I'm much more just body and mind. And spirit is just our individual uniqueness, and just being a robot is not going to give you the exhilaration of the movement.
Yes.
Yeah.
Misty, do you want to touch Phil Griffin's comment? I have a comment I can add to that, but if you want to take a look at that.
I think I missed it.
Okay, so he's saying, that's so interesting. My peak instructor always emphasized getting the clients to memorize the order. And and that's funny because like I like that, and I think that's a different conversation when we're trying to get our clients to internalize the movement for themselves. I would get them to memorize the order, but I also will get them to understand, like I said, memorize nothing, understand everything, understand why they're doing the exercises and what makes sense to come next for you and that sort of thing. So there's a sense of, I want them to internalize it.
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
You know what I mean? So I will ask them to know the exercises, to come in and be able to do their mat work on their own while I'm doing something else. That sort of challenge. But I think that's different than having a rote memory without any understanding of the why behind it.
I believe, I agree with you. I think learning the order is about understanding how things progress and relationships between different shapes and families, etc.
Yes.
Whereas, having something like rote cues is, I mean, it's completely what happens when you just don't have the word in your cueing toolbox to say what, I mean, then, because you're so wed to this prescribed notion of what a cue is, you're standing there like, blah, 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 like I can't get the words out because does not compute.
Yes.
So it's recognizing, and it's also keeping cueing. I'm sorry, Risa.
No, I'm sorry.
I'll see it in a moment, but it's about keeping cues. I think cueing needs to be more practical.
Yes.
Like you said, find that transversus abdominis to pull and traction on the thoracolumbar fascia. Who the hell cared? Like, I don't care.
That was impressive example, though, I must say.
Well, thank you. Thank you. I try. I memorized a couple things in my day.
There you go.
But yeah, it doesn't make sense to the layperson. Who are we teaching? Are we teaching the geeks? Yes, and I love us, and we fellowship together for that stuff. That's what conferences are for, and all of that. But when we're working with lay people that are here because they have a want or a need or a desire to explore the work in different ways, we have to meet them where they are.
Yes.
Risa, sorry.
No. That's fine. I can see that we're on the same wavelength. I remember when I very first started my teacher training, and a friend of mine she was a physical therapist, a very well-known one here in Beverly Hills. Not well-known, I mean, successful. And she offered to teach the anatomy part to my students. And this was many, many years ago. And I said, sure. And so she began to talk about the anatomy, and I looked out at the crowd, including me, and I mean, it was going way up here. And I finally said, this down a little bit. I said, we're not teaching medical students. I'm not teaching physical therapists. I'm teaching Pilates. We got it, And she said, oh, okay. Because she was coming from that place, fine. But physical therapy is still different than Pilates, I believe. I think it's a wonderful tool for both. I love physical therapists, and our wet has been wonderful, because I come also from the day when physical therapists would say, yo, don't you dare do Pilates, because they didn't understand or exercise. And now very positive things is how we have been able to wed ourselves with physical therapists and doctors. Oh my God, I used to be told, you have no idea what I've been through. I mean, it was, my doctor said, no exercise. And I'm like, and I knew that was the worst thing she could say, but if the doctor said,
the authority said, yes.
Hey, thank God. It's like, oh, my doctor said I need to do Pilates. And so that's a wonderful evolution that Pilates has taken.
There's a few comments here. Ali is saying, we grow through our sensory experiences. So it is important for us, so important to have people feel and not just do. So that's off of the memorization piece. Brittany said, yes, the purpose of cueing isn't to sound good. It's to help people connect with their bodies. And then Lindsay Ray had a comment here, and I have a comment that comes off of this. I tried to switch up my cueing as much as possible so I don't become a cueing robot. Yes, and it's so funny, I was thinking about that this morning. I was cueing a client through an exercise, and I had him in the middle of the exercise, and then I just kind of paused to take a breath, and I was thinking, okay, I know what the next cue is, but I'm just going to tell him what to do instead of cueing him.
Mm-hmm.
the next cue in this exercise.
Cue has become this buzzword for something. I don't know. I'll tell you the best cue. You want somebody's going around with their shoulders like this, just put your hands on them and they go, ah. Oh. Sometimes you just place your hands on their, you know, rhomboid, their scapula. And like many times when I'll do an exercise, pressing down, you know, most people just use their shoulders and you should use your rhomboid, but I'll just place my hand so they'll understand that that's the muscle they're using. There's touches, what is the best cue you can have.
Yes. When I was doing, I used to teach this boot camp. My colleague, this girl I was doing these boot camps with, and I was walking around. She had given them the exercise, and I'm floating around cueing people. And this lady was doing this exercise, and I was like, "Can you retract your shoulder blades for me, please? Can you depress this part? Can you?" I'm trying to find the words. And then she walked by and she's like, "Stick your boobs out." And she's like, "Oh, okay." And I was like, I can't say that, but I like how simple you made the cue to get her where she needed to be in space.
Absolutely. I mean, I remember years ago at Fletcher's, one of other teachers did know a lot about the anatomy, and we were walking around. In those days, it was an entirely different way of working a studio, but that's another story. Anyway, and he was trying to explain to this client, I'll never forget, you know, pull in your transverse into whatever he was saying. And she was looking at him like, what? And then I just went by, I said, squeeze your butt, pull your navel to your spine, or actually, you know, and just go back and breathe, inhale. And then she goes, oh, okay. Because all his talking about all of these anatomy and the muscles to be using, it was just going past her. Now, yes, if I ever get a doctor or a medical person who's in front of me, because we both understand what that is. But I'm not a big anatomy jargon. I'm more of a movement specialist.
Absolutely. Same.
I think it all comes back to Looney Tunes. You know, if you're in our generation and you watched Looney Tunes, and I'm saying it tongue in cheek, but I cannot tell you how many times I use Looney Tunes references in my classes. You know, the chicken hawk, you know, the little brown chicken. You know, sometimes I'll say, okay, give me the chicken hawk chest. And people know what it is. And I'm always remarkably blown away by the fact that Looney Tunes is just such a...
It's universal language.
It is. But again, it's relatability. I can't say it enough.
Yes, relatability. And it's also people... There's a lot of, as you know, intimidation. People have intimidation about their bodies. And when they see you and you're good looking and your body's looking good, and they're intimidated by that. And the more intimidated you make, the more you want to just be friends. You just want to be buds. You just want, I mean, you want to be an authority and you know, but you don't have to impress the person with how much anatomy, because they're already a little bit intimidated. They're a little overwhelmed. This, everybody wants to be, you know, have an image, especially here in Los Angeles, which all look like. And, you know, when they see that, hey, you know, you're just fine. Oh, and they feel, when they feel that inside of them, that's what gives them the excitement.
Right.
Yes.
Not that they're understanding. I once had a lady say, oh, another teacher trying to impress, she goes, I can see your multifidus working. And I remember I said, I don't think you can see your multifidus working, but, you know, whatever.
We're at 10:56. Risa, I was supposed to have Tasha Edwards come on as well right afterwards. And then we had, you know, some technical difficulties. We got in a great chat about this book. And Risa, we need to have you on for a full hour. If we can plan that for a Wednesday, that'd be amazing to just continue to unpack all that we're talking about.
This time we'll get up in plenty of time.
Yes. And Tasha, like, we had a whole talk set up for that too. And I have
such a good one.
I know, so good. So we'll make that happen still at some point. At 12 o'clock for my Mississauga people, I'm actually doing a Black History Month Pilates class, doing two of them today. So starting my virtual class at noon, I'm going to be talking just about Black history and the Black instructors who paved the way for people in Pilates. And so we're going to have some fun just sharing and just opening with that as part of the talk to start my class at noon at 5:30 online today. So Tasha was going to kind of piggyback on some of that conversation. But it's all about accessibility, and it's all about just the fun that we're having with this. And this conversation that we're having right now about cues and connecting with people and understanding it, when we could stay centered on that, people have such an amazing movement experience in our spaces.
Ooh, that's, mindfulness is a big word now too.
Right.
And,
Yes.
about just being in the moment. And I think that's why I always loved Pilates. And that's when it really works, is because you're not thinking so much. I mean, you obviously do always thought, but you are able to be in that moment of just experiencing yourself moving through space in a way that's graceful and controlling. And
Yes.
when I say controlling, not in a bad way, I mean just having control, like astrology, right? And that's the essence, I believe, of the work. And when Jillian and I do our Instagram live on Saturday, we'll be talking a lot about that as well.
Sure.
One
last comment. Sorry,
now we just talk and talk and talk. Of course, when you have I have now.
Let's get, you're a pro now, so we're good.
Ron could go on and on and on and on, and now I know why, because when you've been you can go on and on.
Misty, any closing thoughts to tie this up?
No, I love, and my friend Allie Green was listening earlier.
Yes.
We talk about this all the time. I love the fact that more and more people are starting to get away from the idea of the rigidity of the work and starting to really think of it from the feeling of the work.
Yes.
That's what I want. That's what I want, to get away from the rigidity.
Right. And it's not about, doing Pilates willy-nilly and, not giving a damn about how the work is done, because there's a reason why people come to us to learn this work. It's not so that they can move any way. They want to establish organization and balance and all of these things that we can help with. But I love the fact that we now are comfortable enough to have conversations about what makes this work for the individual.
Right.
And it's really easy to get kind of indoctrinated into that rigidity paradigm, but that we're getting away from that is exciting for me, because I think it will speak to the longevity of the work, for one, and for two, most importantly, it'll make it more accessible to more people.
Yes.
Exactly. And
wow.
So many people, I've been doing Pilates for years, and they love to show up what they can do. And that's fine. That's fine.
It's fun.
It's do, but the joy of movement, like Ron used to say, life is movement, movement is life. And
yes.
and just got to keep on moving, babe.
Yes.
That's
love it.
There you go. All right, party people. Thank you so much for joining us. I just screenshot this last great conversation. Thanks for a great discussion. And yes, Misty, you're the best. Risa, thank you so much. I'm so glad that we're able to get this. And I'm going to reach out to Tasha. We need to do a round 2 on this and just keep this going, because this is such a nourishing conversation, for lack of a better word.
Well, and I love to talk about it too. So anytime, we'll talk soon.
Okay, thanks.
Nice
Thank
to
you, everybody.
Person.
Nice meeting you.
Take care.
Bye.
Good stuff. Goodbye, everyone.
Bye.
Bye.